My name is Bill Israel, and I am a certified facilitator and consultant for the intensive journal program of Dr. Ira Progoff. So I want now to take a moment to describe who I am in this process, how I found this unique and basically life-saving process in my own life. But just with a little bio information, I have been well educated. I was on an early life mission trying to please my mother, of course, in the early days. And so I finished my college degree in philosophy and religion and then went to graduate school, seminary, where I was trained as a hospital chaplain and eventually was ordained as a minister in the United Methodist Church in the United States, and embarked on my life mission of social justice. That I was a bit of a firebrand preacher and was alive with my sense that the world needed to be righted, and I could help do that. So I was an active anti-war, anti-Vietnam War activist, and was interested in performing marriage ceremonies for interracial couples, and was all tied up in the importance of sex education being provided for children in the public schools. Well, that was in the state of Kansas, and none of those was a popular thing to do. So I had to begin to shift gears. And in the process of shifting gears, I moved away from the church for all kinds of reasons. The veterans of foreign wars actually wanted me to be removed from the church for my stance on the war in Vietnam. And of course, even back in the day, the 1960s, racial conflict was just such a hot button item. And so I was having trouble finding gravitas with my parishioners and even some of my fellow clergy. So it was clear to me I was going to have to move on. And in that process, I began developing some skills that I had learned in seminary of counseling and pastoral care and hospital work. But the conflict grew, and in the late 1960s, I found what was an original social justice mission on the rocks, really, both personally and professionally. And as I began trying to figure out how I'm going to navigate this, a whole bunch of negative things began to happen. My own spiritual centeredness began to fray, and I was in constant emotional turmoil with family and friends and my community, and began to entertain whether or not I should just stop my pastoral care work. Then a variety of other things happened. A divorce, a very bitter divorce, and a family breakup, and family estrangement, and then I had to quite literally move away from my church work and find something else to do. So in the early days of that struggle, into the early 1970s, was when I first discovered the intensive journal process, a workshop being done at a college out on the high plains of western Kansas at Fort Hays State University. A fellow clergyman actually was conducting the workshops, and it was like fresh air, because my consultations with a psychotherapist had been going on for a while, and even consultations with a psychiatrist were not going well. They were unproductive for whatever reasons, many of which were about shame and fear, embarrassment, and grief, that I had made some internal decisions. Inwardly, I decided that I could handle this on my own and wouldn't have to speak about it. So I discovered when I started writing my very first journal workshop, the immense awareness that came to me that it was going to be impossible to ignore these negative, dark pieces of my life. I was going to have to navigate through them and not try to just dodge them and forget them. So I have been since involved with the intensive journal program since actually 1972. I described the process for the following years into the time when I finally immigrated into Canada in biblical terms, because I was familiar with the concept of Jonah in the belly of the whale, that I had climbed into this secretive, shamed sense of who I am and sort of stepped away from my social justice mission to find work elsewhere, which I did, but most of those jobs were dead end. They helped pay the rent and child support, and but did nothing to heal the estrangement from family and friends and community. So it wasn't until I retired from a 25-year stint as a professional human resource management consultant that I began looking seriously at getting myself certified to do the intensive journal work, because it had carried me sort of piecemeal across 20 years, nearly 30 years of finding a new way in my life. Excuse me, even remembering them, the emotions return, all of that grief and sorrow never leaves. And so that's part of the beauty of the intensive journal process, is to acknowledge that. There's no way to hide from all of that experience in my life, or yours for that matter. And Dr. Progoff's process, among other innovations, was to reveal that it's not a matter of forgetting that your past has been harmful. It's a matter of integrating your past and owning it, letting it be part of your wholeness. That I had to acknowledge there's no way I could unsee my divorce. There is no way I could unsee the estrangement from my family. It still lives in me, and I still suffer from it from time to time. But by revisiting it in writing, and then from time to time speaking my truth in the sacred space of the intensive journal workshops, my creativity began to find some footing. My sense of personal agency began to return. I came to the realization that nobody can fix this for me, that there's, in a sense, no help coming. And so to find this peer support system in this intensive journal process, it was borderline miraculous, that I didn't have to sit and explain my life to somebody. I could sit and write about it and re-experience it. And that's an important part of the journal process, that you go back through those emotions. Even as you write them and speak them aloud, they're still there. But comes with it then the sense of this is a doable thing, that your life is still got wonderful possibilities. And some of those possibilities are in fact in those dark moments, and it's important to revisit them with kindness, with compassion. And so one of the learnings that I gleaned from that, having spoken about empathy for years, was the true meaning of empathy, that often begins with yourself, that you must pull your own life together in its wholeness, in its darknesses, in its beauties, in its challenges, and in the pieces that won't ever be fixed but need to be integrated. that, I began then the process of getting myself certified. And in 2014 was awarded my certification and began conducting my own public workshops, which have morphed into a wonderful adventure of new applications.